Next up, we'll be hearing from an angel investor and a serial entrepreneur working behind companies such as 23, Podio, and he's also a main organizer of the famous Reboot Festival. So please welcome all the way from Copenhagen, Mr. Thomas Madsen-Mygdal. Welcome on stage.
Thank you. Okay. So I'm between you and the investor panel, so please listen up. The Slush guys and girls asked me to spill the secret sauce, the secret elements that I put into the companies I'm involved in. So I really tried to sit down and think about what is it that we're actually doing very differently from the current bias and the current thinking. So I just wanted to very quickly share with you 5 key observations or things we've designed over many years to be the playbook for how we do things. So we press a button. Can anyone press a button here? Perfect. We got a guy to press the button instead. So the first thing is really about change itself. The core idea that a startup is about change. And I mean, that could somewhat be controversial in itself. Some people might argue that a startup is about making money or building a business. But I think, at least the perspective I always have and what motivates me and the great people I'm happy to work with now and then, is that it's really about changing things. So you'll often see them having like weird stuff like we're trying to change printing, we're trying to create the future of work, we're trying to rethink banking and whatever. So I think the key is really, how do you really actually have a vision? In a world of MVPs and agile development and lean startup and stuff you can build in a week, what is it actually you're willing to work on for 3, 4, 5, 10 years of your life? What is it you already were interested in 5 or 6 years? So a lot of people always underestimate how quick things happen. People with Podio, where we went from a basement to an exit to Citrix in 3 years, said like, oh wow, that was fast. But what people really neglect was that we'd been working on the kind of DNA of social and work for about 8 years. John and Anders and Kasper, the founders, and I'd been fucking around with a lot of stuff. So I mean, all the stuff that becomes before you actually do something. And I think the other thing about really creating a concept of change and a concept of actually articulating your vision for your team is that it's really a journey you're on. I mean, you haven't solved it yet. The promise of the journey is that it is a journey and we're just getting started and it'll take a long time to get there. So really think about how you can articulate your vision and the journey you're on and what it is you want to change. If you want to change something, you commonly also have an idea of how big the market is and the incumbents and who you're against, which also is a good thing compared to doing another social photo sharing service that doesn't really replace anything. The next thing is really deeply connected to change, or the way, what is change? So there's value and values. Sounds like a bad joke, but it was really something that after we sold Podio to Citrix that I really thought a lot about, because the core DNA of Podio was actually two core values. One was empowerment of individuals, that people should be able to work the way they wanted to and create their own tools to work, compared to having some top-down tools coming down. And it was radical transparency and openness within organizations. And that was basically, I mean, those two things are just simple values. There's nothing much more in them, in everything. But it really transcended the whole team, the culture, everyone. Everyone waking up at night would know. Every design decision just becomes really easy when you know what it is you're actually designing for. And value shifts are also some of the most radical changes that happen. It's where people really flick around from going to a world where people said, why would you share anything online? Why would you blog? Why would you share a photo? To a world where almost everyone online shares their stuff on Facebook, etc. Right? It's those deep value shifts in how we perceive things and what we value. So I think really betting on value shifts is really an amazing way to create change and to create value. And then at some point, people that never would have believed those values were good and might in other parts of their business divisions be selling other values or have other perspectives, might want to pick you up for those values because that's actually the DNA of the company. The third thing is all about LSD. So the great LSD guru Timothy Leary once said in the 60s that when you were going on a trip, what you should do, your LSD trip we're speaking of here, was your mission should be to find the others. And finding the others is what this is all about, right? How do you find, when you go out on this big journey that is trying to change something, or going on the course of building a company, how do you really find the others? And so many people are stuck in their basements and their garages or their incubator or wherever they are, and not really connecting with the world. But doing something, changing things, is all about finding the others. You need to find your co-founders. You need to find the right people to be along on the journey. Not just some guy with a check, but the right people that knows the market, have the same values as you, have the skills, are going to be fighting for it. Your partners, your customers, your fans, the early believers, etc., etc., etc. So really being on this journey of finding the others is something I always strongly value, and I think it's deeply undervalued at this point. So I think there's really something in it. So most of the companies I'm involved in, you'll see us going on trips around the world tours, out meeting with people, connecting. Actually, even before you're pitching, right? Even before you have a product that's final, then it's even better because you don't have the solution yet. You're actually on the journey of finding the other people. So find the others in all regards is extremely difficult, and the larger your team grows, the more inward looking it becomes, and the less connected to the outer world it becomes, and it then becomes a challenge once again. A way of finding the others that this is basically a 10-year-old concept that we've refined over time, is really that I think that human skills are deeply undervalued. When I go to the Valley, people say, yeah, marketing, you just get a link on Hacker News and then the thing goes viral. And I mean, that might apply to some product categories and it might happen now and then. But what if you just basically brutally could put a lot of people on making sure that it happened, that you were out there? So in most of the companies I'm involved in, we have teams that we call humans. In 23, in Podio, we call them the user engagement team. We actually originally stole the idea from some farmers that had an organic box delivery scheme with food to their home 10 years ago, where they called it the conversation department. But how do you really build these teams, or this team that combines sales, evangelizing, and service into one, commonly young people that can scale this? So you don't just have a customer service team or you have a boring sales team, but you have these real humans that can be on the road, evangelize, and can scale up the human scale of it. So think about how you can build this team to build your relationships and your conversations with the outer world. Once again, also for product development, not only for customer service or anything. So it is just applying brute force on human skills, but let me tell you that 6 or 8 half-time working students or full-time working students just out of college can do amazing stuff. And then it also becomes your talent pool for great talents that you can put on new adventures or new challenges that are. And best of all, they also have charm. You're human beings. They can win people over. and they can do a lot of good stuff for you. So really start thinking early on how you can scale the human side of it, your relationship side of it, so it just doesn't become that you have a CEO that travels around the world and one customer service rep and the developers at home or whatever it is. But think about how you can really build this into an asset instead of looking at it as a cost. And then the last tip is so simple, but I see people missing it all the time. When you're going on a trip, it's really scary, right? So you're trying to hang on to something. You're trying to hang on to some kind of playbook, some kind of guideline. You're trying to believe in what some successful entrepreneur said, that that's the way you should do it. But the real deep spiritual challenge here for you is not to believe in any of that, but to find your own way. And it sounds simple, etc., but when teams are really at the peak of their output and at the peak of their excellence, it's when they've found their own way, when they really know what is just right for this thing. Because, obviously, everything is contextual, right? The idea is different. What is right for this idea that you have? What is right for the product you have? What are your skills? With Podio, for example, we've been running a lot of workshops and a lot of events because we all come from event backgrounds. John used to be a rock star on stage when he was a young guy. I used to do a lot of events. So instantly from day one, right, instead of trying to do something we weren't good at, we just played the playbook like we knew it and ran for that. But that might not be right for a different startup. If you're really good at copywriting, then you can do amazing stuff with that, etc. So really find your own way is the big challenge. And I especially see it nowadays with so many young entrepreneurs that are really, the MVP, and I'm using the lean startup method. The lean startup method is just assembling the best practice of 10 or 15 or 20 years of development and putting that into one book being the rules, right? I think there's tremendous value in throwing the rules away and finding your own way on it instead. So that was 5 quick tips from the secret source book. They're all pretty simple. That's the whole idea, that you can actually do it yourself. I could even do it. So you might as well be able to do it. Thank you.